on.
Sure could, Mike.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Long Box Guys. Spoil the shit out of The Mandalorian Season 2. With me, as always, are some of Tom's very best friends since he was a little kid, and some of his other friends joining us as special guests. Tom is out doing good, so he will not be joining us. Plus, that lazy sack of shit actually hasn't watched The Mandalorian, so he will be just worthless to us. Josh, how are you? How you doing, and what are you drinking?
I'm doing pretty good, and I'm having a nice fall beer from Treehouse called Eddie's. You'll be happy to know the calorie and the alcohol content is pretty low. So I'm
not happy. I feel that I could get some of your stuff if you die, so that doesn't really make me happy.
Yeah.
LT, how you doing? What are you drinking?
I'm doing okay. I am drinking some Airstone Sea Cask Scotch.
Excellent. And by the look of things, it's an extra pale.
It is. It's a lighter Scotch. It goes down smooth.
And we are joined by your beautiful bride, Eileen. Eileen, how are you? And what are you drinking?
I'm good. I was just working out right before this. So he has to smell me, but the rest of you don't. So I just have my fancy light up water bottle, which I'm not going to light up for you right now, of course, right now. But I might steal some of his scotch at some point.
Get your own scotch, woman.
We don't have to smell you. We just want to smell you. And also joining us, William. How you doing and what are you drinking?
I'm doing great. I am drinking a local brew here. It's a peanut butter coffee stout by Shovel Town Brewery. So good. Nice and subtle in the peanut butter.
Sounds delicious. And Bill, how are you doing and what are you drinking?
I'm doing great, Mike, and everyone else. I am drinking a coffee moonshine from Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Nice. And of course, from geekorthodox.com, purveyors of the finest static clings, stained glass prints, t-shirts, hats, you name it, they sell it. Ian and Tammy. Ian, how you doing? What are you drinking?
I am doing lovely this evening, Mike. I am drinking a French broad chocolate sipping chocolate.
Ooh, where did you get such a delicious sipping chocolate?
It is French broad chocolate is here in Asheville, North Carolina, and this is a new product that they've released, and it is delicious for the holiday season.
And you are joined by your beautiful bride, Tammy. Tammy, how are you doing and what are you drinking? I think I can figure it out, though.
I'm doing very well, and I am drinking the same thing. Thank you.
Excellent. So we're going to talk about Mandalorian Season 2. And just a warning, we're going to spoil the shit out of Mandalorian Season 2. We're going to start by going episode by episode, and luckily, my Google Foo has given me a list of all the episodes and told me a summary of each. If you guys want to talk about one of the episodes or something about that episode that gave you either a boner or a lady boner, you just jump in and we will talk about that. So we'll start off with, if you haven't seen season 1, I don't know why you're listening to season 2 recap, but The Mandalorian itself is basically Lone Wolf and Cub. It's a Western set in the Star Wars universe, created by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. And it is fucking awesome. Season 1, The Mandalorian finds the child. There you go. I've caught you up on season 1. Now it's season 2.
The child.
I'm sorry, what?
And falls in love with the child. Like he becomes very fatherly. Like he forms a bond. He doesn't just find him, he forms a bond.
That's true. With that little psychopath baby Yoda.
I would like to add, he's tasked with returning the child to his kind.
And who is he tasked by?
By his clan.
The Armorer.
The Armorer. And the clan itself is a offshoot of the Mandalorians, as we find out in season 2. They're pretty much a cult, right?
Oh, go ahead and spoil it, Mike. Why don't you just go ahead and spoil it?
I'm sorry, I'm not there.
All right. Like all cults, Mike, it depends on who you ask.
And of
Exactly.
course,
They're just
Perspective.
misunderstood, Mike. So what if they have a huge weapons cache and they're just a little understood? They just live underground and have a huge weapons cache. They're just misunderstood, Mike.
Like anybody that says
The
weapons
way-
are part of my religion is in a cult. Like that's just that's just hands down true.
and by the way, you can never take your helmet off. That's
Right.
not creepy at all.
How do you eat?
You can be alone. You just no one can ever see you take your helmet off.
It's a lot of
You
protein
like
shakes,
lift
Mike.
it and be like,
Yeah.
A lot of soups, a lot of thin soups and straws.
Soups, a lot of straw action going on.
broths.
Yeah.
So in Chapter 9, The Marshal, written and directed by Jon Favreau, the Mandalorian is trying to return the child to his people, the Jedi, and he begins to search for other Mandalorians who may be able to help him find the Jedi. That leads him to Tatooine, where he goes to the town of Mos Pelgo,
Yeah.
and there he encounters Cobb Vanth. Bill, you want to tell us about Cobb Vanth?
We first see Cobb Vanth very briefly in one of the first novels that came out when Disney bought Lucasfilm, right around Force Awakens. That was in I think it was Aftermath, and we learned that Cobb Vanth had managed to finagle some Mandalorian armor from some Jawas. The armor was of to him unknown provenance, but he is wearing it and he's using it to instill law and order. In it was called Freetown in the books, but now it's Mos Pelgo again.
Yeah, and the Marshal or Cobb Vanth is played by Timothy Oliphant, playing the same character he plays in just about everything, Will and Gibbons. And he does a great job. They have to go out, and in order to get, he has no information on how to find the fucking Jedi, by the way, right?
Right.
All he can do is say, if you want this armor back, which you say doesn't belong to me, then you got to go help me kill a dragon. So the ragtag bunch teams up with a bunch of Tusken Raiders, and they take down a crate dragon.
Great.
Yeah.
Dragon, yeah.
So can we
Uh,
talk about the premise of this episode first? So he's about to kill him. He's like, I'm gonna kill you. That armor doesn't belong to you. And then all of a sudden he's like, well, if you help me take down this dragon, I'll give it to you. Why didn't he just kill him?
It's his
That's a
ongoing
great
moral
question.
arc.
It's not
Because he
option number
accepts
1 in the code.
Every side quest.
But
Yes,
he
he
was
is.
that, I know, I understand for the sake of the plot.
Plot,
There
sure.
had to be
No,
a
no. He is compulsive. He will do anything for he just.
Wait,
This guy clearly has no internal purpose. He just wants to take every side quest the universe presents him. He just wants to
I mean-
make friends
He
and
needs the
just
XP.
help everybody. That's his whole purpose.
He has
The
never
Mandalorian
seen-
essentially is a side quest.
He
The
was
whole
literally
story.
about to pull the trigger before he was interrupted by Arrakis.
Look,
He's like-
there is all of Tatooine that he could have been on, and no matter where he is on Tatooine, he's gonna run into sand people.
True.
Mhm.
Whoa. Tusken Raiders.
Yeah, that's racist.
2020, pal.
Yeah.
So I would just say that he has never seen a MacGuffin he doesn't like. That's
Also true.
so after they succeed, what did you guys think about getting a look into the culture of the Tusken Raiders, not the sand people, you racist?
All right, so this has just been burning in me. I've been waiting to ask Bill this because he's the expert. So Bill, were they sharpening the gaffy sticks on the bantha's teeth, or were they cleaning the bantha's teeth with the gaffy sticks?
Can it be both?
It could be. I think we probably saw some for the first time ever on returns of dental hygiene, which I think goes a lot way. It really helps us understand the Tusken Raiders and their culture. I mean, it's been said forever about the close bond between them, so I think they are cleaning rather than sharpening.
Yeah.
I agree. They seem to love the bantas. They seem to be like pets to them, not just utilitarian.
They didn't like it when Mando offered to send the bantha into the dragon's mouth. After all,
Now, William, what was that thing they dug out of the Jawa, or the Tusken Raiders dug out of the dragon, and they got all excited about?
Yeah, that was the pearl. It is an item of some mystery in the universe, but it is allegedly tied to certain Force activities. Bill or somebody else might have some more information about that, but that's what I know about it. They haven't really touched on the mysterious things that you can do with that Krayt Dragon Pearl.
Anybody know anything about the Krayt Dragon Pearl?
Nope.
This is We Don't Know Shit podcast.
I think it's been mentioned like in one other book or story, so it's not something that's received a lot of attention.
You know what? I bet you it's a baby Yoda inside that pearl.
That's right.
Totally. It's like a whole litter of them.
That's where they come from.
It's like those LOL surprise things. You just crack it open, see what it is.
Kinder
Kinder
Egg for
Egg.
Star Wars Galaxies.
So let's move ahead after successfully completing his quest. Chapter 10, The Passenger.
Wait, the reveal at
Directed
the
by
end. How do
What?
you miss the reveal at the end of that episode?
What was the reveal at the end of that episode?
Oh, come on, Mike.
A
I
certain
know.
character.
I want her to talk.
Oh,
Jesus
Thank you.
Christ, LT, do you
Self-facilitation.
know how a podcast works?
We sit in silence.
Of course. So at the end of the episode, we see a mysterious figure that had been watching them. And of course, if you have seen the movies, we infer that it is likely to be Boba Fett. Of course, this leaves me wondering, because might have to go ahead a little bit, as Boba Fett recurs and keeps looking for his armor, why he didn't try to get the armor earlier if he's just been lurking around.
Maybe he
Tatooine.
just got there. He may have
Yeah,
just got to Tatooine, and he was like,
He
oh,
left
crap,
and came back.
Mando got it before me.
Maybe.
Maybe. It seemed
We
like,
Just
don't
get
know.
out of the Bacta tank.
yeah.
But this is the spoiler episode, though. We're not inferring anything. It was fucking Boba Fett.
No,
What?
it looked like a Boba Fett silhouette.
I mean, there's a lot
It's a
of people
fucking
out there
clone.
that look like Boba Fett. I mean, really, come on.
It's a few 100 million people who look just like Boba Fett.
And
True.
sound like him, as we have found
True.
a little bit later on in the season.
I would
Don't
love
know
it if
if you see
somebody would look at him and without his mask on and be like, I think you owe me money. Or Dad? Anything. Yeah.
Anything.
I mean, can clone troopers father children?
Yes.
Yes.
He could, for sure. Because right,
He is
he's,
not, but he's different.
he was
is
the
different.
one non-genetically altered clone, right? That was the
Yeah.
deal. That's what Jango wanted.
Yeah. Well, not aged, right? Everybody else
Not
was
aged,
aged.
Yeah, the others were all accelerated. He's natural age.
Look,
All
if
right.
you really want to get into it, the clones are like probably they don't have downstairs parts.
They're just smooth like
Because
a Ken doll.
They don't want them to have like sexual feelings. They
But
want
in the
just-
Clone Wars, there was definitely one episode where one of them
yeah,
did
they
have a kid.
That
Oh.
is correct. I forgot about that. I forgot
Yeah.
about
Adopted.
that. They did. There was a deserter that did have children, so I
Oh.
guess it is possible.
He found it in a Krayt Dragon Pearl.
Yeah.
So,
what
yeah,
happens when you fall into a Sarlacc pit for thousands of years?
well, it's
Comes
not
up
thousands
with
of years, though,
Krayt
right? Because
Dragon
we're
More like
dealing.
Years.
Yeah, this is right after Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
So, a
No,
few years.
5 years.
Yeah.
5 years.
I think.
Nine BBY, so 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
What is BBY?
Oh, no,
Actually,
ABY. After ABY, sorry, after the battle
BBY
of
is
Yavin.
Baby Yoda, I think.
Oh, ABY, sorry. Sorry, if you look it up online, you'll see a lot of. I'm the only person that knows. Sorry, it should be ABY actually.
Bill
So you
knows.
have
Okay.
like BC. It said you have Battle of Yavin.
Mhm.
So which is the original Star Wars Episode 4, New Hope, whatever you want to call it. So if you look up Star Wars dates in the Star Wars universe, often you'll see them just referred to,
Either side of that
off,
date.
off of the original movie.
For laymen, Death Star blowy uppy date.
Death
Right.
Star 1.
Yeah, we'll get into the multiple Death Stars later on because man, there's some shade getting dropped in there. But let's go back to Chapter 10, The Passenger. Peyton Reed directs and Jon Favreau writes. The Mandalorian agrees to take a frog lady and her eggs from Tatooine to the estuary moon Trask, where her husband will fertilize the eggs in exchange for information on other Mandalorians. He has to go at sublight speed because of the egg's fragility, and he is confronted by a pair of X-Wing fighters who are not happy with him for his role in the prison break from season 1. He tries to avoid him, ends up crashing on a planet, getting stalked by a bunch of crazy ice spiders, and ends up being saved by the X-Wings, who are like, hey, you helped bring a couple bad guys in during that whole prison break, so we'll cut you some slack.
Kind of saved.
Yeah, but we'll leave you on the ice planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, fix your own fucking ship.
We're not gonna take you in, but
So what did you guys think about this episode?
I
I
like
mean, it was-
how Baby Yoda Leroy Jenkins in the cave.
It literally was the eggs, right? So
Yeah, he
it was,
totally Leroy
it was a
Jenkins.
frozen Leroy Jenkins.
It did feel like a summation of World of Warcraft. Like you start off with this really long, like, escort quest, and then there's a Leroy Jenkins moment at the end. Like between the two, it's like that's
Yeah.
Does anyone want to talk about how sociopathic Grogu is? Because he was just popping those eggs like, oh,
Unfertilized eggs.
stop.
we
stop.
come on, we eat unfertilized eggs all the time.
Yeah, but chickens don't talk to us.
Yeah, I've never
How
met
do you
their
know?
mom
Maybe
and had a
maybe it's
conversation.
just like the frog, and we
Chickens
don't know
don't talk
how
to
they're-
me.
and you rarely do it like making strong eye contact with them.
Never.
That whole save their race.
Oh, is this yours?
Is this the last cook of your race? Oh.
Damn it, Ian! You almost had me doing a fucking spit take. Yeah, eye contact's good sometimes, bad other times. It all depends.
I think this episode starts the how quickly can you repair a damaged ship motif in this season. It's something easily ignored, but if you pay a little too much attention, it's awful in this
I
season.
paid
It's
way
just
too much
awful.
attention. That ship was not space worthy. Even just the cabin part that he fixed.
Pay no attention to what's happening here.
Look, I'm pretty sure duct tape can stop the cold vacuum of space from coming into a costume.
Not
I'm
only
no engineer.
It's
the
that expansion foam
But
stuff.
tearing
It
your
works great.
So yeah, that all. I guess that we could also mention that his ship is the Razor Crest, right?
Yes.
Well,
And it started
Used
off
to
as
be.
an awesome ship, and
Yes,
boy,
it was.
this guy cannot take care of his stuff. That's all I gotta say.
But this is like a recurring theme in the Star Wars universe, right? Millennium Falcon, beautiful ship in the beginning. Immediately, Han Solo gets his hands on it, and he turns that thing into crap.
That's true. Yeah, I'll
Also
go with
true.
that.
Okay.
It's fair.
Fastest crap in the galaxy.
Exactly.
So that brings us to the chapter 11, The Heiress, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, who also directed one of the episodes in season 1, and again written by Jon Favreau. At Trask, the Frog Lady reunites with her husband, and they direct a Mandalorian to a local inn where he can find information on other Mandalorians. The fishman offers to take the Mandalorian to others, but on board the fishing ship, he is ambushed by fishermen who want to sell his armor. The Mandalorian and the child are rescued by 3 Mandalorians led by Bo-Katan, and she enlists his help in seizing weapons from an Imperial freighter in exchange for information on the Jedi. After boarding the freighter, Bo-Katan reveals that their main objective is to capture the ship along with the weapons in their war effort to reconquer Mandalore. The Imperial captain, played by Titus Weaver of Bosch fame, is instructed by Moff Gideon to crash the ship, but his efforts are stopped by Bo-Katan, who questions the captain about the dark saber. He commits suicide because apparently he doesn't want to have that conversation. And Bo-Katan directs the Mandalorian to meet the Jedi, Ahsoka.
Tano.
Tano.
Yeah, her in the city of something on the forest planet of something else. So what did you guys think of this episode? And who the fuck is Bo-Katan? And why should I give a shit? Other than it being Starbucks.
Because
Yeah.
she's Starbucks. So when we
It
were
makes more
talking
sense than her
about
being an angel.
when we were talking about season 1, we did forget to mention that the big reveal at the end of the season 1 was the Darksaber. So obviously, if you don't have any context of what the Darksaber is, you'd be like, oh, look, it's, another lightsaber. But as we start to find out through season 2, if you did not know this already from watching Clone Wars and Rebels, that the person who has the Darksaber is essentially the head of the Mandalorians. Of course, this episode is also where we start getting into the oh, by the way, you're part of a crazy freaking cult, not the actual people of Mandalore.
Don't sound so judgy, baby.
Well, the other Mandalorians, they took off their helmets, and Mando was like, you're taking off your helmet. And they're like, you're one of those.
I mean, come on.
They're
We
just
had to-
misunderstood.
We had to see Starbuck. I mean, they weren't going to let us keep Starbuck keep her helmet on the whole time. Anyway, come
Well, I mean, they keep Pedro Pascal hidden from us.
on. True.
Because they don't want to pay him. But anyway, that's gonna happen in season 3.
Okay, but also that was part of in season 1 there was that issue of wait a minute, we've seen Mandalorians take their helmets off before. They did it all the time in Clone Wars. Jango Fett didn't mind having his helmet off, so why now? So what was it a question of is it because they're hiding? Though it seems to me that if you're going to hide from the Empire, wearing the very distinctive helmets all the time, not the best way.
That's fair.
You see that T-visor, you just know. But then, like I said, this shows that differentiation that maybe he is part of that Children of the Watch, which might be tied to the Death Watch bunker. So maybe we'll see some of those folks show up in season 3.
I also think it's interesting that the Mandalorian is an orphan and has grown up in this cult. So apparently it wasn't just the Empire taking orphans and making them into stormtroopers. The Mandalorians are also adopting war orphans and turning them into their own fighting force too.
Well, the
Or
cult
at least
is,
it's
yeah.
cult.
Whoa. They're saving them, Mike.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
The
I
one
think it
interesting casting note is the actress Katie Sackhoff, who plays Bo-Katan, right? She was the voice actress from both Clone Wars and later in Star Wars Rebels. So that was interesting. And she
has been
completely
playing- she has been
completely
playing that-
looks like exactly who she should look like. So good stuff there.
He has been playing that character since she has
Oh, that's
appeared.
cool. I didn't know
So
that.
Yeah, great job. Love Katie Sackhoff. And I also, the guy who was playing the Imperial officer who was commanded to crash the ship just did a fantastic job. Like, that guy was
Yeah.
I was like,
I
that guy
remember
did it.
him from
That actor. Yeah.
Lost. And I think he crashed. I think he killed himself just to get away from Lost. He's like, this is the only way out of whatever this Lost is to kill myself in a Star Wars movie. It doesn't make sense, but that kind of ties in.
Ties in, comes back around. It's full circle.
It also
Better than the season finale or the finale.
it also kind of shows you that the Empire, although we kind of view them as the bad guys, right? They don't really view themselves as the bad guys. They are willing to die rather than let these arms fall in the hands of people who they believe are terrorists, right? And then we'll get more into that later on too when we get to the last episode.
Mhm.
But any other comments on the heiress before we move on?
Yeah.
All right. And moving on to chapter 12, The Siege, directed by Carl motherfucking Weathers, written by Jon Favreau.
It's all in the hips.
Yeah.
All in the hips.
So in this episode, the Razor Crest is a piece of shit and it's falling apart. So he has to head back to Corvus. But he has to take a detour to Navro so he can unite with his allies, Cara Dune and Greef Karga. While the Razor Crest is being repaired, the Mandalorian is shown how much things have improved. The last challenge they're facing is an Imperial base on the planet, which the Mandalorian agrees to help them destroy. They discover that the base is being used as a laboratory by Dr. Pershing to conduct experiments with the child's blood, which has a high M count. We'll get back to that. They destroy the base and escape pursuit by stormtroopers on speeder bikes and TIE fighters. Dune and Karga manage to stop the speeder bikes while the Mandalorian destroys the TIE fighters. With the repaired Razor Crest, the Mandalorian child leave, unaware that an Imperial spy has planted a tracker on the Razor Crest for Moff Gideon. So let's start off. Cara Dune and Greef Karga are characters introduced in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
Greef Karga, who was Greef Karga, Ian? Carl Weathers' character. Why is he important to this?
He is Carl Weathers. He enjoys a good spread from the craft service table, from what I've learned. Never once touch a per diem.
You can take acting classes from him for $2,000.
Sweet.
And you can get a bit part as Jeans Man.
That's right. Admiral Jeff Blue Jeans. The state Mandalorian.
And Cara Dune is going to be important because it seems like she's setting herself up to get her own series. And Josh, who's Cara Dune?
She's played by Gina Carano, and she is an ex soldier who has now become a new they're not the Rebel Alliance, they're just an Alliance soldier in the Outer Rim. So she has become sort of an ally with the Mandalorian through season 1. And continues to be an influencer in season 2.
Yeah, she starts off as a mercenary, but now she's the marshal of, or magistrate, or whatever you want to call it, the law.
Marshal. The law.
Of this planet. She was a former rebel soldier, and we know that one of the important things about her is she's from the planet of Alderaan, which we know got smoked right before the Battle of Yavin. By the first Death Star.
Spoiler.
Alrighty.
Full spoilers.
We're sorry if you haven't seen that 40-year-old movie yet.
Yeah.
I've been saying
in
Tammy,
this
what was
side quest episode, the thing I wanted to note is as soon as I saw the Imperial transport, I'm like, they're driving that off the cliff.
Oh, yeah.
I think as soon as they panned over, I was like,
Yup.
that's how they get out. They're just driving that thing off the cliff, huh?
Yeah, I would totally do that too. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what's the point in having that anti-grav shock system if you can't just
Absolutely.
drive off cliffs?
Yeah, it's like the Clark's Plymouth Fury. That's the whole plan was to drive that off of things.
But we did learn some physics, though, behind the science. It is a hovery craft. It can't just fly.
It's true.
Yeah. Because, I mean, that's how most of the land crafts in Star Wars universe work. They don't really fly. They just kind of hover.
Yeah, but, we've never seen that happen. So it was nice to see it happen, and it checked out. The science checked out.
A little check there, yeah. Speeder
Speaking
bikes
of
are somewhere in between, but yeah.
Speaking of science, we also get information on the high M count.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's right. Everybody's
right.
favorite thing. Midichlorians are fucking
talk about
fat.
No.
More,
Did we all go get our M counts checked after that episode?
I get mine checked like once a month just to be
Good
sure.
idea.
Yeah, I'm twice a day. I gotta prick my needle, and I got the test strips, and I got my M count every day. Apparently, high is not as good as you think it is.
No, because they come and take you away and they
Yeah.
suck your blood.
yeah, well, that's one of the other things about the lab, right? We found out that it's a clone lab, right? So I think that's going to be important later on because of, well, we know that the Empire is trying to develop clones, and they're trying to use the blood to give the whatever clones they develop midichlorians, right?
That's right. So they're going to
Sensitive.
develop a ton of clones that are force sensitive, but can't really grab anything from across the room. They will try for a specific object and just miss the shit out of it.
Well, yeah, because they're stormtroopers, right?
Yeah.
Have we considered, though, that they're actually using the blood to bring back Palpatine.
That's what I was getting at. Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah.
Thank you for seeing the thread and sewing with it.
I mean, he had to come back
Or-
from somewhere.
Or Snoke? Weren't there like
Yes,
weird?
it
Yeah.
definitely was implied that there was a Snoke connection.
They're
as well.
retconning this
Oh, yeah.
pretty hard.
Yeah.
They're like, everyone's like, where the hell these people come back from? Oh, don't worry.
Oh,
We'll
good.
deal with that.
They never explained Snoke at all. Like it didn't like there was no it was just random. So we're like,
Yeah.
well, maybe we go back and figure it out now.
I had no idea at the time, but now.
we knew all along. We had this
We're
all
almost
planned
there.
out, of course.
Snoke was
Right.
created by Bad Blow in the 80s.
That's right. So odds on
2020.
favorites that Snoke is a failed Palpatine clone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious. Especially, you know, what I was most disappointed about Snoke is when we saw him the first time in the movies, he was this big hologram. I wanted him to only be like 4 inches tall.
Yeah. I would
In
definitely
real
want
life.
him to be Yoda sized. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
That would have been awesome.
Or he's like an action figure, you know.
Yeah.
That would have been. I would have loved that too.
Yeah.
All right, but moving on, let's go to chapter 13, The Jedi, written by Dave Filoni and directed by Dave Filoni. In this one, the Mandalorian and his child arrive at the city of Caladon on the planet of Corvus to find the population living in fear of the city's magistrate. Blah, 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 offered a spear made of Beskar to kill the Jedi that's been harassing the village. He tracks down Ahsoka.
Ahsoka.
Tracks down Ahsoka. Ahsoka's like, hey, that's Grogu. He started training before the rise of the Empire. So obviously this kid's not very bright. It takes him a while to learn how to do shit.
I don't know. He survived Order 66.
Kid's
That's-
50 years old
Yeah.
and he's still a kid.
But he's
that's
like
true.
hiding the whole time, you know. His training stopped.
He's really small. He might have just been in somebody's pocket. Like,
Right.
So
The kid's playing everybody. He's just trying to get free eggs.
the Mandalorian teams up with Ahsoka to defeat the town's leader, de facto leader, and mercenary named Lang, played by Michael Biehn, aka Hicks for all those who love him from Aliens, or Johnny Ringo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
From
Johnny Ringo.
Tombstone, or
Somebody
John,
walked over your grave.
somebody, John Connor's father, right, from Terminator.
Yeah.
He's been all over sci-fi,
Oh,
and
yeah.
in this he plays a mercenary. Ahsoka confronts Elsbeth, the bad guy of the episode, and demands to know about the whereabouts of her master, Grand Admiral Thrawn.
dun, dun, dun.
Mhm.
Afterwards, Ahsoka refuses
Season
to
3.
train Grogu due to his close attachment to the Mandalorian. She is much wiser, obviously, than Luke Skywalker. Spoilers. Instead, she directs them to an ancient temple on the planet of Tython, where Grogu can use the Force to decide his own fate. And she gives the spear to the Mandalorian, which is going to come into play later on. But can somebody explain to me what Beskar steel is?
Well, it's the Mandalorian specific. You know, it's their kind of it's Mandalorian iron, for lack of a better term. And Beskar, as we see, his armor, Din Djarin's armor is Beskar, but one of the special things about it is that it is very resistant to lightsabers. It is one of the few substances that lightsabers cannot cut through, which comes in handy when in the Mandalorian Jedi War thousands of years before all of this.
It's what every lightsaber hilt should be made out of, with a crossguard.
Right.
It also is very resistant to blaster strikes as well.
Well, everything is resistant
Pretty
to
much
blaster strikes,
Yeah.
except what the stormtroopers wear.
Except the,
As long as you're a main character.
Yeah.
the Tupperware that the stormtroopers wear as armor is not blaster resistant. But
It is
somehow-
not blaster resistant whatsoever.
Okay,
I
so I,
Plot armor is much stronger.
I would like to point out another annoying plot point with this episode, where Osaka said, I cannot train him, but take him to this place where he can summon another of his kind that might come train him. Like, well, why can't she as a Jedi train him? Why is she sending him to summon?
She's not a Jedi though.
She's
She
so
left the
done
order.
with the Jedi.
She left
Yeah.
the
She's not a
Jedi.
Jedi. Yeah.
So
There's a
can we-
whole
can we
thing where they
spoil this?
accused her of blowing up a temple.
Oh,
She
wait,
didn't
I
do
love
it.
that.
I didn't
Just
finish
spoiling the shit out of it.
Okay, we're spoiling the shit out of it. So
No,
you know,
I'm
the
not
big
gonna
fact.
lie. She got so political. I was like, I'm bored.
But also, yeah, as I said, but also she sees the strong attachment between Grogu and Mando, and so she knows that will be a barrier because she's seen firsthand her master Anakin and his attachment to Padme, and
But
didn't
then why
end so
would
well.
she direct him to find another Jedi? Like some other Jedi could break this bond or something. So what was this thing with Osaka? So she was like, I don't want to be a Jedi anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Not a
So,
Jedi.
she's Anakin's Padawan.
Yeah, I know that.
And she's seen.
I made it
she's
that
seen,
far.
Yeah, I mean, and clearly, I mean, everybody knows, you know, Obi-Wan and her both clearly knew about Padme and everything that was going on. I mean, they've made that abundantly clear that, and well, they were also really, really bad at sneaking around anyway. Like, I think everyone knew. So, I mean, she saw how, well, one, she was totally screwed over by the Jedi to begin with. And so she was like, I'm out of here. And then, of course, she had to wrestle with the fact that, like, you know, one of her closest friends, you know, so master / probably like big brother feelings, you know, then went to the dark side. And, you know, she firsthand saw how attachments ruined everything.
Yeah, she's accused of a pretty major crime. The Jedi Council doesn't believe her. So even with all their prognostication and the Force, they still think she's lying. And so she is essentially eventually, absolved of the crime. And the Jedi Council offer no comfort, no apology. They're just like, whatever. And she's like, fuck you guys, fuck this shit, fuck the Jedi. I can use the Force however I want, and I'm out of here.
Yep.
And I'm taking these two lightsabers with me, bitches.
Yep.
The white lightsabers, by the way.
Right.
Another interesting part about the episode. Not blue, not green.
Significance of that.
Well, because she's not
Jedi.
a Jedi,
Like
or
a
she's
light-
not
what's the
light.
significance of
She's not light side. You know, she's just. I mean, she's for all intents and purposes a good character, but if we're going to categorize, but she's not claiming that she's like all light side or Jedi, you know, officially, or you know, that sort of thing, because she sees, you know, it isn't black and white like that. I think.
I guess I'm the only one who remains unaffiliated.
Yeah. She
And
tries.
he said in The Color of the Crystals, we learned through the current round of the Marvel comic books, and it might have been covered in Rebels too, that the Sith crystals, you take the Jedi crystals, which are blue and green, and you bleed them by infusing them with dark side energy. And I think Ahsoka's are reclaimed Sith crystals, so she was able to pull the dark side out of them. But you know, so they're white because they're bereft of everything.
Oh, they're the opposite.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And let's not forget, she's also on a mission to fuck up Grand Admiral Thrawn, whoever the fuck Grand Admiral Thrawn
So-
is.
Thrawn. So Thrawn is actually one of the few characters that I forget what they're calling it now. Few characters that has been ported over from the previous expanded universe.
From the Legends.
From the
Yeah.
Legends, thank you. I couldn't remember what it's called. So he's one of the characters that was in this, you know, in all the books that were released in the 80s and 90s until they started completely saying like those aren't part of the story anymore. But and he also comes back in Rebels as well. So he's been brought over in Rebels. You know, I don't.
So easy.
So he is an Imperial Grand Admiral, and he's blue.
Oh yeah, he's not human, which is
He's not
a fairly significant detail when it comes to the Imperial,
Right.
the Empire.
Yeah, because there are very few that aren't in Imperial. He is not human.
And so in The
he's-
Mandalorian, there are some indications that he might be leading the remnant of the fleet. He might be, you know, the highest up on the food chain.
The start
Right.
of the new order. Yeah.
I mean,
And
a
I'm
lot-
going to let somebody else who's smarter than me talk about this, but, you know, where Ahsoka comes in, she's got a personal tie with him, right? like Ezra had gone missing at some point, and there's a Thrawn tie-in, and
Mhm.
that might be very
Trying
well
to
why she's
remember
looking
all
for.
of this, but yeah, definitely because it came up all in Rebels, and he is.
Yeah. Well, she
I think he's
rescues him
prob-
in the Clone Wars in a prison break.
Oh, Thrawn.
It's Thrawn, right? In the prison
I
break.
don't remember that, but I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't remember.
Or am I
I'm
thinking
saying
of
you're
the
wrong, and I just don't know one way or the other.
I
Just
mean, it
saying
would
you're
have
wrong.
to be later. If it would have to come in later because the fact they brought Thrawn back in Rebels, like in real time, was the first place he showed up. But that didn't mean he didn't show up in Clone Wars, which is set before Rebels. But he showed up. It's possible he was in like one of the newer Clone Wars. I don't remember.
I'll have to
So,
look back,
so
but anyway.
she tells Elsbeth that she's looking for her master, Grand Admiral Thrawn, which kind of implies to me that Elsbeth and Thrawn, are they Force sensitive? Are they Sith?
No.
Or are they?
No.
I think it's just master as in boss, because
Okay.
Thrawn is not force sensitive.
And then here's my other question: if she's sending him to the temple to put out a little beacon, would that also attract the Sith?
One would think.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe it depends on Grogu. But then again,
Maybe.
I don't think it's ever wise to put the fate of a 4-year-old in that 4-year-old's hands. He has to choose his fate. I have a 5-year-old. I don't want her choosing her fate at 5.
Yeah.
She would choose Candy.
She would. So the one interesting casting thing I would just mention with this too, Rosario Dawson, who plays Ahsoka, she was actually fan casted, right? There were fans who said she would be awesome. And she jumped on it on social media and was like, this would be a dream come true. It would be amazing. And through that process is how she actually got cast into the role.
And she was
And they were right.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
They were
was-
not wrong.
She was amazing, yep.
So yeah, they decided not to go with the original voice actress for a variety of reasons. One of which is because when Ahsoka first showed up in Clone Wars, she was like 13, and so they, obviously at this point the actress is also older as well, but she tends to play less mature voices and that sort of thing. And also they really wanted someone of color also to play this as well. So there were a few people that were like, oh well, why didn't they cast Ashley Eccleston? But I don't think she could have played it in the same way at all.
Yeah, I think there was a certain physicality that
Yeah.
that wouldn't have had.
Plus Rosario Dawson is orange, so it worked out perfect.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
true.
Clearly.
True.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
do love Thrawn though. Like Thrawn, if you read the Timothy Zahn novels back in the day, right when they came out, first of all, there was no reason for them not to use those novels for the settings of the world because they are definitely better than the content they generated, just in my opinion.
Mhm.
And Thrawn is sort of like this extraordinarily he has this extraordinary tactical and mathematical mind. And so he doesn't have the force, but he has a tendency to predict people's actions and lay traps for people, knowing and learning people's behaviors and culture. That's what he's known for, just to set that up for the future. Love
Right.
Thrawn. My
Scarier.
my favorite
Scarier
character.
than anyone, honestly. And they do a very good job in Rebels, actually, with that.
And the fan casting I saw on that is Benedict Cumberbatch. Everybody's clamoring for.
Mhm.
Con?
Back when the books first came out, I saw Jeremy Irons as Thrawn.
Okay.
When the books
I
came
can
out
see
back
that,
in the early
yeah.
'90s.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it'll be Grover because I hope they cast a blue character.
Not a lot of roles out there for blue characters.
Then I'm gonna throw my head in for Cookie Monster then to play.
See,
Admiral
I'm
Thrawn.
going for Brainy Smurf.
Grover has more range than Cookie Monster.
It's
all
true.
right?
Can he
If
do
you
a
don't
non-comedic
think
role?
so,
You're right.
no.
Yeah, no offense to Cookie, but yeah, you're right.
In a
But, you know-
in a bar fight, I'm taking Cookie, but as a
But, you know-
thespian,
Thrawn is always played as kind of a stoic character in the comics, and I think Brainy could really pull it off.
You don't remember Stoic Smurf from the second live action movie?
Yeah.
all right, moving on to chapter 14, The Tragedy.
Mm.
Robert Rodriguez directed.
Mando got the spear though, so it's important to know
Yeah.
Mando got the spear.
Yes, that's Chekhov's gun here.
Jon Favreau writes this episode, and the Mandalorian takes Grogu to the ancient temple on Tython, places him on the Seeing Stone at its center, starts to meditate. An energy field pops out. Boba Fett arrives along with the mercenary Fennec Shand, who is from episode 1. There's a whole thing between Fett and the Mandalorian. Hey, that's my armor. No, it's not. Blah, blah, blah. Hey, Moff Gideon is here, and he's sending a shit ton of stormtroopers. They make a deal. You help protect the child, and I'll give you your armor back. And the deal is set, and he gets 2 of the baddest mercenaries on the planet to help him repel the attack, but it's not enough because the fucking dark troopers come down and just snatch Grogu up and take him away. And Fett and Fennec promise to help the Mandalorian get Grogu back. They travel in Fett's ship, Slave One, to Navarro because the fucking Razor's Crest gets blown up from orbit.
And 28,000 backers of a certain Hasbro project rage in the internet.
Why did he take his jetpack off? He takes his
know.
jetpack off and like throws it
Wasn't
on
he forced to? I thought
It's a
somebody's
plot
like, take
Yeah.
that
He
thing off.
didn't,
and picked it back up.
Yeah, but
like
he just could have
3
been like,
times.
oh, we'll have to get
3
back there.
times I'm like, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
Ah,
It's
what do you
heavy.
got? Why are you walking? He was at a gas anyway, and it was just a neutral sign.
Gotta get
like a
the
neutral gesture,
Propane
like,
tank's empty.
I know there's nothing in this, so I'm just gonna take it
I'm
off.
like, pick up your effing jetpack.
Seriously.
It's like 3 miles to a Blue Rhino where you can swap it out.
Yeah.
Well, he
you-
goes running up the hill toward the child. I'm like, dude, you could have just picked up your jetpack.
yeah, you went from the Rocketeer to the Walketeer.
All right. His adrenaline is pumping, right?
Right.
He's not thinking clearly. He's like, oh, I got to get there, rather than thinking, oh, I can pick up my jetpack, or, oh, I could just go over to my ship. None of that occurs to him.
Yeah, I remember really
Oh,
having
yeah.
to get to the hospital quick, and instead of getting in my car, I just tried to run there.
Right. Adrenaline is fight or flight, and he chose fight.
Could you see the hospital from where you were?
How much of that was adrenaline? How much of it was alcohol?
Aren't they the
50-50?
same?
Or blood gas.
So who's this Boba Fett guy?
Oh,
I've
God.
Never heard of
Uh-oh.
him.
Never heard of them.
Other than being the coolest, most worthless character of episode 2, right?
So the
Like,
two
it's-
things I liked about this, right,
Okay.
is they made the character look badass in combat, right? This
Right.
is the first time you're really seeing Boba Fett in action, and the actor's not a young guy. They did a great job of making him look effective in combat, right?
Right.
So that was great. And I like the honor that he showed, that he honored the deal, because again, you don't get a lot. You know, you as far as I knew as like an 11-year-old kid, Boba Fett's evil, but at least he's got some sort of code of honor going on here.
Mhm.
I like that
And,
part.
From
I
the
feel like this-
actor's perspective, he asked if he would be allowed to sort of portray some of his Maori background using the staff from the Tusken Raiders, which I thought was great that they sort of worked that in.
Right.
It's cool.
And now we know the stormtrooper armor, as well as not being blaster proof, it's also not stick proof.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It
it's
just
not.
shatters. It's like it's very light ceramic. It's very temperamental. It is great for several things. One, announcing you're a stormtrooper, and the other one is tea.
Light cosplay.
Light cosplay. Yeah, very light cosplay.
So
For everybody that
also,
liked that
this
character
episode,
episode 2, I feel like it finally paid off as being a well-rounded character and not just somebody that looked cool on screen, because that's pretty much what we had to go from before. And just based on the look, people were like, that's a cool character, and that's it. That's all we had. And finally they're like, no, actually it's a well-rounded fighter. It's an honorable person. Like, he protects, he like makes commitments to friends. Like, it made that character be what people have been waiting for 40 years. And I feel like they got what that character was, and they portrayed it on screen, and they did it in 30 minutes. And it was everything that everybody's been wanting.
Mhm.
I can't speak for everyone. It's everything I've wanted that character to be for for ages.
Ever since you wanted the little figure that would bend over and shoot.
Yeah.
the rocket.
They shot the rocket.
It did it.
Ever
He
since
did
the
it. He
Star
did
Wars
it. He
Christmas
did it.
special.
He bent over and he shot the rocket. Like that damn character that little toy was supposed to do.
I got to line up with something Ian just said, and he said they did it in 30 minutes. Episodes this season were short.
Mhm.
They were kind of all over the place, though. There was a lot of them that were really short, and then there were ones that were longer. They definitely were just like, make it however long it needs to be. Like,
Right.
Yeah,
I think
and
that
they
one was
definitely fell
45.
mostly within like the 30 to 40 minute range this
yeah,
year.
most of them were below 40.
Yeah.
But
Plus, Robert Rodriguez was directing it. It was a 30-minute episode, and it probably took him 22 minutes to film the thing.
And he did it for $12.
Yeah.
One take.
In one take. A single camera shot from start to finish.
But this episode also showed us that it's okay to be slightly older, slightly overweight, and still cosplay Boba Fett.
And
Right.
be a badass
Yeah,
be a
cosplayer of Boba Fett. Thank you very much. And your damn rocket works.
Yeah.
That's right.
So the three most important things of this episode.
Amongst the most important things. I was like, in the past.
Boba
7.
Fett gets his armor back and is the badass. Mando's ship gets blown up. Like smithereens. Like he's not repairing this and making it space worthy because he had to dig out his spear from the rubble.
It's been reduced to like individual Lego components. Like
But he
it's,
gets digging through it. Like,
It
what are
is
you
much easier now.
buddy? And he pulls his spear out. And 3, Grogu is taken.
Taken.
Yes, by the Dark Troopers.
Oh, and he was so sad. Oh. that
And
was
I
so
know it leads you to think that maybe Liam Neeson's going to be in one of the next episodes.
Sad.
Qui-Gon's coming back.
Yeah, he has a
Because
very specific
Grogu
skill
gets
set.
taken so many times that Liam Neeson should get involved, right?
He should die at some point, yes.
Well,
So
Liam
that
Neeson, we can all
perfect.
agree, is just a bad dad.
Yeah.
It was just
Every
horrible
movie.
because you felt like Mando was just helpless. And I mean, I don't have children, and some of you do, but I mean, as a father, can you imagine like your child being taken from you and you have like no mode of transportation except if you had picked up your
Up your
effing
jetpack.
jetpack?
You pick fight or flight. You picked the wrong one.
Well, now we're on to chapter 15, The Believer.
Wait, can I say just one quick thing about the
Sure.
Dark Troopers? I was happy to see the Dark Troopers because we first saw them back in the mid-'90s in a video game, Dark Forces. A mercenary, Kyle Katarn, is doing a rebel mission and uncovers them. And one, I think there were 8, maybe 12 bits back then. But they definitely got the look of it. But it's also, most of the time the movies just kind of refer to themselves. And we kind of see we see that Filoni and Favreau and everybody are really willing to mine Star Wars lore, and they don't mind going deep, because there'll be fans out there who understand it and see it and get excited about it, and they trust, and I think they trust the audience to pick up on it. I think it's like kind of the trend with the movies is to really spell everything out, so that even the casual fans can be as knowledgeable. But Favreau's willing to go a little bit deeper and trust his audience to kind of come along for the ride.
And sometimes it's a
Favreau's
lot
clearly-
deeper, right?
Yeah,
Like the
that
blue
was
butterflies.
1995. Yeah.
So when Grogu's at the temple reaching out to the Force, you see the blue butterflies, right?
Yeah.
And there were I think again, 2 small instances where that had happened prior. One was a Darth Vader comic book, right? Where he's having an out-of-body meditation experience and the blue butterflies appear. And it's for him, it's the fight between the light side and the dark side, and the light side sort of trying to pull him back.
Right.
So, of course, there's all kinds of speculation as, is this the battle, the balance? What side is he trying to choose?
Yeah,
because
he gets
you know-
killed by Ben Solo probably anyway, so. who
Because-
cares?
and also just keep in mind, Grogu is the same age as if Darth Vader were still alive. He and Darth Vader are the same age. So
And
they
we've
will
never
both be
seen them in the same room at the same time.
different.
Oh.
is Darth Vader 4 Yodas on top of each other in a trench coat?
6.
Hmm.
I'm Mr.
supposed to
Man.
have big lungs. Breathe
Look, we
louder.
know that most of Darth Vader's legs are mechanical.
That's right.
It
So you'll
could just be
Groot.
blunt.
Torso.
So, chapter 15, The Believer. I'm going to apologize. I know he's not listening to this podcast, but Rick Famiwa writes and directs it. I'm sure he would correct my pronunciation, but he's not here to do it. So the hell with it.
You're gonna call in now.
June uses her new credentials as Marshal of the New Republic to transfer Miggs Mayfield, ex-Imperial, from prison to her custody. And he agrees to help locate Moff Gideon's cruiser, but he needs access to an internal terminal. He suggests a secret Imperial mining hub. Not a very good secret. And they manage to get in, but there's a whole bunch of shit that happens on the way in. The stormtroopers lose their fucking minds when they make it in with all that explosive shit. And from there, Mayfield encounters his old Imperial commanding officer. When he gloats about the atrocities that the Empire committed in Operation Cinder, Mayfield decides, fuck this guy, kills him, and hilarity ensues. But they get the information they need on where possibly Gideon is.
Loved Bill Burr in this episode. I mean, I liked him in season 1. I thought it was a good bid. Bill Burr also, for some of us, is a local fellow. He's a Bostonian. I've met him on several occasions. He's a genuinely nice guy when you meet him, and it was great to see him just get his guns on and lay down some justice in the Star Wars universe.
But I appreciate he kept his Boston accent.
Me too.
Boston. He transformed from Boston guy in Star Wars to actually a character with an arc and depth and everything. It was great.
Yeah, it was cool.
So my favorite part of this episode was that the Mandalorian had to don the Mud Trooper armor and got into a fight. And the first thing that happened is he got hit with a stick in the arm, and the arm shattered.
Teacup ceramic. That's what it's made from. Very easy to engrave. It's lovely in the morning. Not very great for combat, but it is beautiful.
It keeps the mud out.
Mostly.
Operation.
I found it interesting how they, when they were transporting the fuel and, the people were coming to attack them. But before that, they saw the people that lived on the planet and how depressed they were and impoverished they were. And it was very sad. And then when they were being attacked, though, they had to fight off the attackers. And the fact that they didn't make them human was interesting. Ian and I were talking about after the episode, because if they had made them human, if they had made the attackers the people that were native to the planet, it would have been horrible for Mando to be killing them, because they're just fighting back against their aggressors. Mm-hmm. But they made them this random race of people that maybe Bill knows who are, but I do not.
Space pirates.
And that was my supposition, was that initially those would have been the locals that were attacking them. And so you'd have this horrible, back and forth gray thing where you're having to kill people who are on your side to achieve a larger good. And so I felt like that was probably what the original screenwriter was putting in there, was to really make this difficult moral struggle. And they're like, yeah, we can't have him killing good people.
Yeah, now let's just make it
aliens.
aliens.
Squid-faced folks. Whatever.
Yeah, so we have no idea who this group of beings were that were trying to disrupt this transportation of this fuel.
Yeah.
But either way, they were probably fighting against the Empire and on the same side as the people who were
right.
So yeah.
It was a little less so, and it obfuscated the point by making them not human, by showing humans in the village and then the different race as the pirates. But yeah,
exactly.
I 100% agree.
So you didn't think that the attackers were the indigenous people and that the humans in the village weren't the migrant workers to work on the...
Didn't they specifically say that the humans, as they passed through the area and they did close-ups of these people's faces that were hungry and sad and dirty. Didn't they say that those were the indigenous people? I thought that was like specifically mentioned.
Yeah, because Burr says something about, well, it was the Empire before, it'll be the Republic tomorrow, and nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't understand why they didn't just shoot the tankers, because they seemed very blow upable.
Yeah, well, plot point, right? They had to take the thing off and do the self-destruct or whatever the hell. I don't know.
It's the same reason that you're sneaking into an enemy base, and the way that you disguise yourself so you look like everyone else is to wear the same armor and helmet that everyone else does, but you're like, no, that's uncomfortable.
I don't like the helmet.
I'm going to this entire mission. Like, there's
I'm gonna one up that one, Ian.
Driving up, and I'm like, put on your helmet. Put on your helmet. Put on your. And he never put the helmet on.
We also learned that Imperial ATMs don't care that you have the right credentials. They just want you to have a face. You want the top secret information? Let's see your face. There you go.
Okay, you got a face.
Good.
We talked about that. Like, there were two vendors that came to the Empire, and one's like, we have this great system, and it can identify anybody. It costs this much money. And somebody else is
How
like,
much is it?
They're like, look, we can make sure they have a face, and it's going to cost you half as much.
Shoot the first guy, hire the second guy.
They're like, just any face? Yeah, just any face.
Just any face.
I mean,
How much cheaper? Yeah, we're in for that.
We're gonna check and see if they're human. If they're an alien, no go. Only
No go.
humans get access to everything. But that's it.
But that does raise the point. This is the second time, right, that we see Pedro's face. But this is the first time we see him take his helmet off in front of other people.
Right.
And he did it for the sake of the child, which shows like the intense bond that he has with Grogu.
Which
And possibly, so I was just going to say, and possibly sort of the rethinking of where he sits with, now that he's learning about these other Mandalorians out there and that there are different sects and things like that, perhaps thinking that there are other ways.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that might have caused him to question his entire upbringing. And
But
the fact that
mostly it was
there are really
Grogu.
no more like him, right? Wasn't everybody killed off that were like him,
A lot of
that
people in
were
that
the
cell were killed
extremists?
off, yeah.
Either that or that stormtrooper helmet just really wasn't all that comfortable because it just didn't have the right ventilation. Like the Mandalorian helmets really got good circulation going on in there.
Or he got hit in the head a couple too many times and forgot who he was.
I saw somebody point out in the episode, like once, because he's always in costume, and they're like, so you don't see like his talent as an actor, like, but you really can't hear because whenever, like, once his helmet is off, he still acts like it's on. Like he never turns, like he never
Well,
looks
it's not him.
sideways. Like he turns his head.
That actor is not the Mandalorian physically in the suit for every other episode.
Yeah.
That's not
He's-
true. It's I think it's about half the time. I think he's in
I
it.
think it's about
I can
90%
tell
of
his
the
walk
time.
Really?
now.
Yeah,
He's
two others
almost
do.
never on screen. It's almost always one of his two doubles, one of which is about 90% of the time. And I know they have
Distinct
conversations about how they think he should move or what he should look at and what he should do, but the actor Pedro Pascal is almost never in that suit. And I assume for the most part it's because they're worried he has no. You can't see anything in those things
Yeah.
if you've ever put that helmet on, and they just don't want him to get hurt.
Insurance.
It's just insurance, I would
Yeah.
presume. But
If-
yeah, he is almost never in the armor.
Well, the point was he did a great job of, like, he acted like he had worn a helmet all his life. Like when he
Yes.
turned, somebody was talking, he turned to face, like
Mhm.
he always had a forward view.
Yeah, and that was a really fun interaction with those two actors. Like one was playing the straight guy, and it was. I thought it was
seat at the
fun.
table. It's great, yeah.
Yeah.
And you were just praying Bill Burr shot that guy, so
And he did.
Didn't because I wanted them to get away.
now I wanted to shoot him.
All right. Speaking of wanting to get shot, let's move on to the last episode, Chapter 16, The Rescue. Again, directed by Peyton Reed, written by Jon Favreau. In this episode, it starts off where the Mandalorian and Dune are going after an Imperial shuttle. The Imperial shuttle that we've seen before in Star Wars. and they captured Dr. Pershing, who is the is he being forced by the Empire to be a genetic doctor, or is he
I think he's a man
folded
driven by
really
the
quick.
science. Yeah, I think he's
I
driven by
think
the
he was
science.
playing both sides.
Yeah.
Depends on who's holding a gun to his head.
That's true. And there is that whole scene where they are holding the gun to his head. The first guy's like, fuck, this is just a job, man. I got no allegiance to the Empire. I'm with you. And then the second guy shoots him like, fuck you. I was on the first fucking Death Star. I watched your planet get blown up, bitch. And she's like, oh, yeah?
Oh,
Boom.
yeah.
Pew,
That
pew.
was ballsy.
Pew, pew, pew. Yeah.
Just not sure what he hoped to accomplish by that, besides getting shot in the face.
Yeah, you know, I can't stress enough. If you're a bad guy and you're holding somebody in front of you with a gun to them, don't let the good guy stand 4 feet from you pointing the gun at your face,
Yeah.
because they can hit you even if they're a shitty shot. Unless they're a stormtrooper, they should be able to hit you from 3 to 4 feet away.
Fair.
It's a solid bit of advice, Mike.
Yeah. So they've kind of set up almost like a Dirty Dozen, right? They've now got Bo-Katan and Sasha Banks. I don't know what character she's playing, but a badass Mandalorian, Reeves, I think it was her name, or something like that. And they've got Fennec and Boba Fett, and they've also got Dune with them to try to break onto Gideon's vessel. And the plan is created by Bo-Katan, who's like, I got this. This is no problem. Slave One will be chasing them in as they pose as the pilots of the ship. They're going to land. The women are going to have their FemForce moment where they go out a whomping and a whooping across the deck, killing every motherfucking stormtrooper that they can set their eyes on. Meanwhile, Mando is going to sneak over and rescue Grogu. The only thing he has to do is get to the Dark Troopers and make sure they don't get out and power up, because if they do, shit is going to go bad.
Well, they had like what, 1 minute to power up, or 3? How long was
2
it?
to 3 minutes.
2 to 3
I
minutes.
think it was the vague
Something
several.
Yeah.
And Gideon gave the order right away, thereby almost ruining their plan.
They had in plus 1 minutes, or in the
Yeah.
amount of time it takes
Yeah.
him to get there.
Plot plus 1 minute.
So we do get to learn, though, that the Dark Troopers are so powerful and can take a lot of damage, but their batteries deplete fairly quickly, which is why they wait till the last minute, usually, to order them into action. And as the Mandalorian is trying to get the door closed, one of them gets out, and it is game on. The Dark Trooper against the Mandalorian with his magical spear, and
Magic helmet.
yeah,
Magic helmet?
My
Spear
spear.
magic
magic
helmet.
Brains had been scrambled in that, though.
Oh, gosh,
After
yeah.
that
Yeah.
many.
how tough is the Mandalorian's helmet? It's got to be made of that Beskar steel,
Yeah.
also, because he
Yep.
puts his fucking head through the
Right.
ship.
His armor is made out of that.
Yeah.
It's just an awesome episode, though, right? It was just an awesome episode from start to finish.
Yeah.
They set so many things up early on. Like you said, awesome moment of girl power. Totally awesome team with those women storming and getting to the bridge. And then the Dark Trooper battle, good Dark Trooper battle. And it totally sets up the ending of that, right? Because you're like, I won't skip too far ahead. But at the end, he finally defeats that one Dark Trooper and hits the button and ejects them into space. But they're droids who can
Yeah.
fly. So you're like, okay, and there's another timer going off right now, and it's not going to be good.
Another boost, and they can get in wherever they
Anywhere,
can get
yeah.
in.
Right.
I like the callback to Aliens, right? So they grab something from the same genre but a different series, and they're like, "Oh, look, we'll just jet them into space. Problem is solved." Because
and
no
similarly-
robot can exist in the vacuum of space.
Similarly to Alien, what we discussed is the one Dark Trooper, impossible to defeat.
Also similar to Firefly.
But once there's 50 of them, yeah, it's like it's the alien versus aliens. Like when there's one that's loose on a ship, it's like everybody's in trouble. Like
one Reaver will kill 1,000 people, but 1,000 Reavers can't kill one person.
Well, but see, again, I thought they were setting
Depends on the
that up
person.
to show
Right.
just how incredible,
they
how
were.
much Luke's power had grown, right? Because it was
Yeah.
nothing to him. It was like me beating up 5-year-olds.
Yeah.
You have a 5-year-old,
Yeah.
Bill, so you might want to curb that language.
Bill,
like
do you have
me
a lot of
beating up
experience
Someone
being a
else's
5-year-old?
6-year-olds.
Yes,
Well,
you're right. They were
Yeah.
setting that
It's a
up.
good
just
dodge,
to-
Bill. Nobody saw that. No.
I mean, no spoiler or anything.
Yeah.
Luke who?
So the Mandalorian succeeds in getting rid of the Dark Troopers. He thinks he goes to rescue Grogu, but unfortunately,
Dun, dun, dun.
Gideon is there waiting for him. Got the dark saber out. He's like, I just want
Oh,
the fucking
God.
kid.
And
Gideon
Grogu's in
knows.
those little handcuffs. His little hands are in those little bindings.
I
Oh.
just love that Gideon is there and he knows exactly what he's doing. He's got him. He's got him in the catch-22.
Exactly. The
Mando has
catch-22
no
that he doesn't
idea.
know about
Yeah.
because the
Yeah,
party didn't share relevant information.
Well,
That actor's so perfect in that role. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, he's fantastic. Moff Gideon. He is doing a great job.
mhm.
He's a significant villain in my.
Oh my God.
opinion. I really
He has
like-
handcuffs for tiny children readily available.
I mean,
I
just
mean-
in case.
the Empire is evil.
I mean, he
Come
borrowed
on.
him from Bill.
I mean, there's creatures of all sizes. You know,
Everybody has those, right?
the prison, and it's like extra small to 5XL. Like, what's your
Yeah.
cuff size?
Yeah.
How many arms do you have? You know.
Poor Grogu.
But poor form handcuffs him in front of. It's supposed to be behind the back. So I mean, he gets what he deserves. He gets
Sure.
beaten by the Mandalorian for his hubris. Could have just let the Mandalorian walk. Right?
Mhm.
He could have just done that, but he just tries to betray him.
Yep.
And again, for some reason, they still keep that dude with his handcuffs in front.
They don't kill him. How many people have they killed and they don't kill this guy?
Because
Well,
Cara Dune wanted info, wanted to
That's
extract
true.
info.
That's
They
true.
need to find
She didn't
Thrawn.
want him alive.
But I do want to say kind of like my one quibble with the episode, because Bo-Katan needs to find Gideon, and I know we're setting up complications for season 3, but she needs to find Gideon while she's the Darksaber. They get to the bridge and he's not there, so she's like, "Oh, I guess we'll wait." And we already know there's a surveillance system that shows us just about all the rest of the ship. Why didn't she go looking and go looking for him as well? But it's because we need Mando to have the Darksaber to have that little complication for season 3.
Yeah,
But-
I honestly thought she was gonna walk into that conflict right when he got it,
Right.
and and she didn't. But yeah,
Mhm.
solid point.
But-
Yeah, they sort of left her in the background for that. But
But just to reiterate what you said, Josh, it was just so awesome to see that Moff Gideon did that on purpose, completely setting Bo-Katan up because he knows that she can't take it, which is a little retcon piece, right? From
yeah,
he doesn't
the
do it on
animated stuff.
purpose. He's trying to kill the Mandalorian.
I don't think so. I think he's doing it 100% on purpose because he knows he's either going to kill the Mandalorian or if he gets defeated, Bo-Katan is denied her prize. I think he's 100%. I think that's the whole reason he went to Grogu.
And he thought it was funny. Don't you remember how much he was like laughing
oh yeah.
when he was on the bridge and revealed to them that, or revealed to Mando that she had to beat him in combat? He was like laughing. And as the dark troopers are coming, he's laughing. Like he was getting a kick out of it. He is a true villain.
But while the Dark Troopers are coming and everybody's like, "Oh shit,
We're just gonna stand here and twiddle our thumbs.
yeah,
Nothing else
as soon as they open the door, we're fucked."
It's the door.
They pointed guns
Fucking
at her.
X-wing shows up. Now, hands up. Who thought this was Luke Skywalker showing up?
I thought it was Mr. Kim again. From
Not,
Kim's
not for a while. I thought it was a woman. It was a very skinny figure. I wasn't trying to figure out who it was.
I was
Yeah.
hoping for Mary
No.
Jane.
You saw the gloved hand, and you're like,
That's-
maybe
that's-
that's
When exactly.
So
When I saw the gloved
saw
hand,
the gloved
The green-
hand, I knew. Like
the
that was
green
the
saber.
Yeah.
And you're like,
yeah.
that might
Yes.
be a move.
Between
And
it's either Luke or Michael
Green
Jackson.
Saber and the gloved hand.
And then the
Like,
other
that
hand
was the-
glove. And you're like, that's definitely Luke.
Yeah, we knew at that point, but not just when we saw
Yeah.
the X-wing.
No, I didn't know from the X-wing.
No.
I guessed. I didn't know. I was like, oh my God, is that Luke Skywalker? And my wife's like, no, I don't think so. He's
The
really
X-Men
old.
Did the green saber.
Not old though.
Yeah.
He's
I mean,
only,
I-
like 25. No, he would be like 20 in his late 20s.
Yeah, he'd be about 28, I think, 28 or
Yeah,
29.
20. So this is 9. Yeah, he'd be 28-ish.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
I
they,
but
mean-
what an accomplishment for them to keep that a secret, right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
and, and it's
exactly.
This
something
whole-
they've repeated.
Yeah, this whole
Right.
season was the first season was so buttoned up. Like we really knew just about nothing going into season 1.
Mhm.
This season was leaky as heck. Like and I was like, I'm gonna wait until I see it till I believe all the rumors, but like we knew we were gonna get Katie Sackhoff. We knew we were gonna get Rosario Dawson. Like there was so much out there. Like, and at this point you're like, well, we know they can keep it completely under. And then they kept the whole Luke thing completely
But
buttoned up.
and I think with that too was because there was so much speculation as to what Jedi was going to be. Because personally, I thought the season would end like the very last scene would be we'd be back on the Seeing Stone on Tython, and we would just see a robed figure standing there, and we'd have to wait till
Freaking
season 3
cliffhanger.
for the Jedi. And again, there was so much speculation. Is it is it going to be Ezra Bridger? Cal Kestis from the new video game Fallen Order. A lot of people thought that would make sense as a tie-in. A lot of people wanted Luke, but I think they kind of let the internet talk themselves out of it being Luke. But it can't be Luke because we'd have to de-age him, and that's not going to look good. Or we'd have to recast him, and
And
there's
they
no
were
way
right.
anybody would recast. So we all talked ourselves out of it. It won't be Luke. It can't be Luke. And then we're watching. It's like, oh my, is it? Could it be? It's like I was hoping it was, but I didn't let myself think it was Luke until it was Luke. And
Yeah,
like,
I thought it
just
could have been Kanan or Ezra, but at the end, I was like, they're not going to send anybody else.
right.
Yeah, there
I-
was a point where I was like, the twist at that point would have been if it wasn't Luke, because they had
Right.
dropped so many hints. Like, you're like, we have an X-wing, we have a gloved hand, we have a green saber, we have so
And yet, part of me wanted the Mandalorian to change his mind when he saw R2D2 and be like, "You're not going anywhere with that droid."
I liked that Grogu wasn't really sold on it until R2 showed up.
Oh,
Absolutely. They had a moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and R2 came out. I think R2 was afraid Grogu was going to hit him with a stick. Wrestle with him over a lamp. But
no,
yeah, I like that. I like that R2 sealed the deal for Grogu to go with him.
because Grogu knows R2D2. He grew up with Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah, that's true. You would have recognized him.
I think
Totally
they kind
fine.
of had to make,
When you find out he's being trained by Vader's kid.
I think
That's
they
gonna
had
be
to
awkward.
make it Luke, and they chose to make it Luke because so much of the Mandalorian was not super approachable by just like normal Star Wars fans, not like you guys who read the comics and have read all the books and know every single character's name and have seen every cartoon, but just by like the normal Star Wars fan who has seen the movies and that's all they know. Like, they don't know who all these characters are. They know who Boba Fett is, and they know what a Mandalorian is, but they don't know all these other characters like you guys do.
Right?
So I
Because
think making it Luke, like, really bought them back into it. You know, they were like, yeah, that was pretty cool. But then Luke shows up, and they're like, hell yeah, this is awesome.
right,
I
And you
they,
get to see Luke as a badass. And
think
they,
it's a really
and
good
there's a lot of
marketing.
dissatisfaction with how his arc was treated in the sequel trilogies, right?
Right.
So this
Yeah.
is an opportunity to
All
sort of
y'all
deal with that.
nerds- All y'all nerds who love the comics and read all the books, you like nerded out over all these little characters they brought in. But then it kept like just the general
Casual
Star
fans.
Wars fans like, hell yeah, this is for me. At first I thought maybe it was a little too deep, maybe a little too deep cut, but then Luke came back. So I think it was smart. I think it was intentional for many purposes.
The de-aging was a little distracting for me, and I think they just
Yeah.
should take that. They just should use that kid who's the Winter Soldier and give him blonde
I'll say
hair. He would've-
Sebastian Stan. They should
Yeah.
just cast.
No, they couldn't.
Yeah.
Everybody would have flipped out. But
No,
his
he-
mouth just didn't move quite
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it,
Yeah, it was
The
off.
thing is,
Right.
this didn't bother me as much as the CGI in Rogue One. Like all of that was that was so I was like, yeah, this is off, but it's not as bad as that. Like
Yeah.
some of the characters in Rogue One that they had to plop in, I'm like, oh no. So
Yeah.
it
So-
wasn't quite that bad.
So speaking of Rogue One, in Rogue One, Vader gets his final moment where we get to see Vader unleashed. In this episode, we finally get to see Luke Skywalker unleashed in a hallway again, showing what a badass he truly is, right? So I agree that that battle with the Mandalorian, with the one trooper, sets up the battle with Luke to show everybody, oh shit, he is so fucking scary. This is the guy who blew up 2 Death Stars, right? and
He didn't
killed
do it
the
alone.
Emperor and Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Gideon is like, oh fuck, that's Luke Skywalker. I'm just gonna kill myself. I don't want to fucking deal with Luke Skywalker.
Well, and that's
So-
interesting because when we see him in the new movies, like he's just some old guy on a rock. Like he's
Right,
sequestered
yeah.
Get off
himself.
my land.
And so now we see that between episode 6 and that, like he actually did something. And so it's really interesting. And whether he's in the next season of Mandalorian, or we just like get to hear the
Turn
lore
off.
that happened to him, I think it's going to be interesting for them to kind of flesh that out.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think they're really gonna avoid that subject in season 3. Honestly, I think it'll be mostly about the reclamation of Mandalore.
I think that too.
Oh yeah,
And
that's
and
I think
forget
we're gonna
Thrawn,
get some of the story though. Like, but again, it may not be an episode. It may just be,
yeah,
Yeah,
I think they're gonna
Look,
try to
I
avoid
don't
it though.
expect to see Luke again, but I do expect to hear some bits and pieces of what he has been doing and what's going on at that time. But
Well-
yeah, it's going to be cool.
'Cause I-
Well, and is like him when he takes Grogu, is that the beginning of the little academy that he starts
I
creating?
don't
where
think
Ben
it's the
gets to kill
beginning. I think
everyone.
he's already started it. at
Yeah.
this point, yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So that is a good point, though.
part of
There's a part where Grogu leaves the Mandalorian and he takes his helmet off, so Grogu can actually see who he is.
Right.
He breaks his code. He's done it once before in order to save this child, and now he's grown so attached to this child. The child wants to see his face in order to leave, so he knows who had been protecting him. And Tammy, you look like you're going to cry. Was this a heartfelt moment for you?
Well, the first time he took his helmet off was to save him, right? Like it was
Right.
something that he had to do. So it was just part of the mission. If he hadn't done that, he couldn't have saved him. But the second time he did it out of love. Like he just wanted to fulfill this little fella's desire to see him. Like it wasn't life or death. It was something that he
It's
did.
personal.
Yeah, a personal connection that he had. And I don't think he's ever had a personal connection with anybody before. And so in a way, and I know this is like a Hallmark movie or something, but like Grogu taught Mando how to love.
Aww.
Sweet.
That is sweet.
Jeez.
So you guys have started pondering what is going to happen in the future for this series already. I wanted to talk first. We'll go to the end scene, the end cap. If you didn't stay through the credits, you missed a scene, which is kind of important. But before we get there, I thought at the end, at that point when the credits started to roll, I looked over at my wife and said, I hope they don't make any more episodes of this, because to me, this is a complete story.
Mhm.
Mhm.
His story was he gets the child, he denies the child, he's on the hero's journey, right? There's always I'm not going to do that. And then he accepts responsibility for the child to get the child back to where he belongs. And by getting the child back to where he belongs, he sacrifices the only love that he's ever known. in order to do it. So a complete fucking story told in 16 chapters doesn't need anything else. So of course there's an end scene that does something completely else. Bill, you want to talk about, or how about William? We haven't heard from you in a while. William, tell us about the end scene.
So yeah, we get to meet one of the only characters in the Star Wars universe that has been the pandemic more than me. And I think my headset might have just died. Is that true?
It did.
Yeah,
There we
it's
go.
good.
Okay. So yeah, so we're back on Tatooine. We're all wondering why we're on Tatooine. And I believe the Fennec, is that? I think
Yes.
Fennec comes down the hallway first. And we see a very poorly, he's doing very well, Bib Fortuna, sitting on Jabba's throne. A couple of slave girls, some servants, and then Boba Fett strides in. Slave girl gets free, servants flee. Bib Fortuna makes a brief appeal before Jabba shoots him unceremoniously in the face, kicks him off the throne, and assumes the seat.
Was there anybody else
Boba.
waiting for him to press a button to send him
Yeah.
into a Sarlacc?
I know, I was
Like,
like,
why
don't
would he be
stand
standing
on
there? On,
I know,
you
we're like,
know
don't
it's a
stand on
freaking
that
trap.
train, trap door.
It's a goddamn trap. It was a trap 20 years ago. It's still a fucking trap.
Well,
No,
What the fuck
because
is wrong with you?
Skywalker killed the beast that was down there. You know
But it
how
was
fucking
still
expensive
big
those
enough.
Rancors are?
I'm just
Fucking
saying. Yeah.
expensive.
Cute.
I'm not
Yeah.
expecting a Rancor down there. That's
Something
yeah.
down there. Like,
That's a prize pig, but
I mean,
I-
really, what would be the best is if there's a little tiny baby Sarlacc down there.
Oh.
baby Rancor? Baby Rancor. Just nip to
Oh,
your
yeah.
feet.
Baby Rancor.
I mean, I honestly thought the thing was gonna drop out under his feet, and he was just gonna have the jetpack and be like,
Right.
Yeah. That would be good. Be good.
wah wah.
That would have been cool.
That would have
All
been
right. So, what would you guys like to see for the next season of Mandalorian? What are some of the things that you would like to see? We'll start with you, Josh.
So, I mean, I think they've pointed to clearly at the reclamation of Mandalore. Honestly, I think you're right, Mike. This was a complete story arc, and I think that being the end, I would have been satisfied with that. I'm happy to watch sort of the battle for Mandalore, and we could have just kept going with the existing characters and not this character, right? And just spun off another series and had his arc end right here. But clearly that's not going to happen because that's not how money is made. So we are going to see episodes with him as the main character and the Darksaber going forward, and sort of him coming to terms with his code and being an offshoot of what the Mandalorians really stand for. And I hope they do an adequate job of that transition for that character, and that it's something that is as well done as they did this current story arc. And the Boba Fett series, I just have to say, they announced, I think it was today or yesterday, that's only a 4-episode miniseries.
Ooh.
So it's the Boba Fett series will be fairly brief, but
You can't put
the
it
other
over.
spin-offs, they have already announced the Ahsoka spin-off. They've announced Rogue Squadron
Rogue Squad, yeah.
The Rangers.
and the Rangers, which
the-
are based on what's his name from Rogue One as a backstory.
Yeah, that's a separate one.
Oh, that's
Yeah, there's going to be a
one, but-
Cassian Andor, and there'll also be Rangers of the New Republic.
Oh, I thought Andor was the leader of the Rangers of the New Republic. No, he's dead by the New Republic. Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely dead.
I
And-
just
and-
thought it was
and-
Rangers of the Republic, and I thought that's what he was. So
And I think Rogue Squadron is actually going to be set after the sequels. I think I heard that. I'm not entirely sure.
Oh.
Maybe,
I
I may be
that's
wrong.
6-ish. Oh, and Kenobi, right? So like
Kenobi,
yeah,
there's
Kenobi.
7
Bad,
series
bad
coming out.
Batch.
And
Yeah,
Bad Bat. But
Yeah.
that's
The Clone Wars
Bad
setup.
Bad
I fixed up a
Batch is
few bad
animated,
Batches, that's
right?
completely unrelated. But yeah, like just the sheer volume that they're gonna produce, I think, over the next 2 to 4 years of Star Wars miniseries it's impressive, and I'm gonna appreciate them, but at the same time, it's sort of a watering down of the mythos, and I hope it doesn't overwhelm people.
Mhm.
Mhm.
All right, LT, Eileen, what do you guys think? What would you like to see in the next season?
All right, so it's 5 years later. The Mandalorian, he isn't wearing all the armor anymore. He's just wearing the helmet, maybe the greaves. He's underneath this pre-imperial ship working on it. He's got like a little lot of like pre-imperial ships. He's buying and selling, looking for that Razor Crest that he still can't find. And then Bo Raton comes out, and she's like,
It's the most,
I got
world's
one
most
last
chair in the
score.
galaxy.
I got one last score. I'm getting the band back together. And that's where it picks up.
You son of a bitch, you had me at I'm getting.
Well,
Eileen,
They've already announced that there are going to be crossover episodes. So, I mean, clearly they're going to continue Bo-Katan's story with the Darksaber and figure out. Again, I don't know what they're going to do with the Mandalorian himself. Obviously, she has to get the Darksaber from him somehow. So clearly that's the storyline that's going to go there. Meanwhile, on whatever the Ahsoka show is, we know that she's looking for Thrawn. I assume either she has found or is still looking for Ezra as well. So it would be great to.
so you're saying this is what they have to do. What do you want to see though?
What I want to see.
You ponder that, and we'll go to Bill. Bill, what do you want to see?
Okay, I will agree that if the rescue had been the series finale, I'd have been good with it. That being said, I mean, I think there is room for growth because I think the Mandalorian he has always lived for others, whether it was for the other Mandalorians, whether it was for the child. He's always lived for others. So kind of like Captain America in the MCU, where he's got to learn to take a little bit of time for himself. He has to figure out who he is and kind of what his personal role is. So I kind of think that's what season 3 is going to look like. It's going to be the war for Mandalore. It's going to be between Bo-Katan's, the traditional Mandalorians, versus the Children of the Watch. And I think he's going to be forced to take sides. And we may well see him being shunned by the Watch because he took his helmet off. And maybe he's going to want to try to go back to them because that's the only world he's known. But then I think ultimately he's going to stand with Bo-Katan and the others for a freer Mandalore. But like I said, he has to figure out who he is and who he is for himself rather than just for everybody else.
Right.
And so I think that's going to be kind of like the next stage of his arc.
And Eileen, what do you want to see?
Oh, Katie Sackhoff and Ming-Na Wen just run around and kicking ass all the time. Like,
I'd watch that show.
yeah, no kidding.
Especially if they're.
Well, I mean, we not
Maybe
get
make
Ming-Na
out.
Wen again
Less
because
armor, the better.
Fennec is on the other show, and who knows whether we'll be crossing back over or whatever. But I mean, we're clearly going to get Katie Sackhoff, and yeah.
All right, Ian, what do you want to see?
You know, as long as we don't get a replay of season 8 of Game of Thrones where the Mandalorian going around going, I don't want it for the whole season, I'm good.
There's gonna be a lot of that. I have a feeling there's gonna be a decent amount of that.
Like, let's just not replay that, and then I'm fine. That's
All right, Tammy, what would you like to see?
So, my concern is that this show was the Baby Yoda show. And so, if they're done with Grogu, I'm worried that people are going to drop off. So, they're going to have to do something that is going to keep their viewership interested. And so, the name of the show is The Mandalorian. It doesn't say which Mandalorian. So, it's possible that Pedro Pascal will no longer be the Mandalorian who is the focus of the show. And maybe it will be a different, more female Mandalorian. So that's what I would like to see. Switch it over. We're done with Pedro. Let's follow.
make an anthology series.
Yeah. Let's follow Katie.
William, what would you like to see?
I don't want to see what I want to see because Favreau and Filoni did a phenomenal job at a million things that I never would have thought or dreamed of. So I don't want to see the Star Wars that I want to see. I want to see what they are going to bring us next season. It's probably going to be the Mandalorian story. I share Josh's concern. I don't want this to turn into the Walking Dead universe where it's just so watered down and so weak. This was an excellent story. You know, there have been very few shows that have really held it together like that. And I'm just really interested in seeing what the next story is they want to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. And I do not ever read any spoilers or any, like, I didn't know who was going to be in this aside from Pedro Pascal. So I like it that way. I like going into an episode having no idea and being like, that's Starbuck. So that's what I want to see with the next season, is that I absolutely have no idea what's going to happen and I'm just blown away by it.
Well, and I think one of the things they did really well this season was, hey, you remember a character that's been gone for a decade that everybody loved but never thought you'd see again? Here they are and they're badass.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Speaking roles.
I think they did a really good job with bringing back characters people did not expect to see again, and filling out their, like, flushing those characters out and making them more dimensional.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to see what they do with the next season with that same sort of structure.
All right, cool. Well, I think that'll do it unless you guys have any last words, but I think that's we're pretty much good. Any last words? Anybody? We have been rattling on for almost 2 hours for a show that consisted of 8 episodes, so 4 hours worth of television approximately. We talked for 2.
We should have just done cast readings.
Yeah.
17.
Do a puppet show next time.
Commentary, just have it running.
Yeah.
You know.
Maybe we should do that.
Cool.
Any last words, or are we good?
I'm good.
All right. Well, this has been the Long Box, guys. Thank you very much for listening. If you like what you heard, and we have a podcast called The Long Box Guys, we are available on Stitcher, iTunes, Podbean, iHeartRadio. We're pretty much everywhere you can find a podcast. If you are watching this on YouTube, if you are listening to the podcast, then we also have this video on YouTube, so you can check it out there. And if you want to hear us prattle on every week about different geeky stuff we're doing other than comic books, you can check us out at patreon.com/thelongboxguys, where we have a Patreon only podcast for a mere $1 a month. You get access to the Geek Leak, where it's a slow drip for everyone else, but it burns for us. And you can, not only that, every dollar that we get for the Geek Leak on our Patreon, we actually donate to the Elizabeth Peabody House, which has a food bank, which is where our good friend Tom is tonight. He is out feeding 80 families like he does every Wednesday. So we really appreciate anybody who wants to go over to patreon.com and help out some people who could use some help. Thanks for the Long Box, guys.
Don't we have any plugs?
No. 2 hours. We did it at the beginning. GeekOrthodox.com. Go
We're
buy some chips.
plugging
They're
this
awesome.
podcast.
Do it.
You didn't hear me just ramble for a minute straight or 2 minutes straight, and now you want plugs again?
Now you
Okay,
want
what do you
plugs?
got to plug?
I
up?
was going to
What do you got?
plug geekorthodox.com. Prepares some fine t-shirts and other geeky things.
I've never heard of that before.
This is why Tom loves having you on the podcast, LT.
Hello, Jamie.
Actually, I love LT, but Tom is always shitting on LT during the podcast, so I took over that role today. Normally, I'm not like this. I'm a dick in other ways, not like this.
Specifically this way.
But we love you. So long from the Long Box, guys. Bye-bye.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
Don't reboot Firefly.
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys, for joining us. I appreciate it.